Welcome back to Anchor Designs. My name's James and today we are going to be making the Anchor Anvil. To start all this project off, we have gone into Fusion 360, which is a very well-known drawing package. It's free to hobby users, it's nice and easy to use, and I started off with designing a 3D shape anvil. When I was happy with the shape that you can see here, I then proceeded to break it down into multiple layers, which consists of 20 layers at 1/2 inch or 12mm in thickness. I originally designed this in 10mm or 3/8, but I went with the 12mm because when I went to get it actually laser cut, it's what they had in stock and it was hardly any more money. The overall dimensions on this is going to be 400mm wide by 150mm in width. The height is going to be 240mm high, or if you are in inches, I think that is 16 inches in length by 6 inches width. So that's going to give you a really nice usable face height, and it's going to be comfortable to use. There are a few benefits in the design in that you can bolt this a lot easier to a surface, with the final plate having 4 anchor holes ready to be put in. And I'm not just saying anchor because it's the channel name. There's some holes in there that you can use coach screws, wood screws, or bolt it down to whatever stand that you want to make. As well, in keeping with a traditional anvil use, it still incorporates the hardy hole, which is the inch by inch square on top of the face, and the pritchel hole that's on just behind the hardy hole, as well as incorporating a horn that you can shape. A cutting table is pretty much wherever you want. I wanted to have this style as usable as possible, so I kind of went for a mix of a German and a French style anvil, which has the completely flat face on the top and then gives you the horn at the bottom. Now, we are manufacturing this anvil out of layered 2D components, so unless we did a lot of small thin gauge material to make it more rounder looking, we have got a bit of a Crichton's face. But it's nothing you can't grind smooth if you wanted it to. I went for this design because it gives you a bigger face, and I think it's a little bit more stronger than trying to do different layers and having a step down into having the step part of the anvil and then another layer down. And I just think having a full flat face gives you the most out of the anvil. And with having one completely flat, big face of this, you're going to be able to handle most jobs. You will notice on the parts there are 4 central holes going right through all of the plates, and this is going to be how we connect all of those plates together to create a nice and solid anvil. And the bottom plate with the 4 mounting anchor holes is tapped for 10.2, so we're going to put a M12 threaded rod right through the top and use 4 countersinks on top of the anvil face. And this is going to allow you to change when your face has been marred up or damaged. It's also given me the option to be able to experiment with heat treating the face of the anvil, or probably get a already pre-hardened material shape for the top piece to be cut. Something like a Rayex, hardox, or a manganese plate would be able to cut this out and bolt this straight on, giving you that nice solid face. We are back now in the workshop with all of our cut out plates. So what we need to do now is, some of these have a bit of a burr on them where it's left a mark. In all, we've got some really nice cuts on here. We have a few of these slugs to pop out. I think probably some of the parameters on the machine wasn't quite set up correctly, but it's not a problem. Most of the burrs on the edge come off really easily with a small file, but I'm going to use quite a worn out flap wheel on my angle grinder just for speed. So I haven't got a lot of time in my shed each week, so any time that I can use to save it is best practice for me. So put on a bit of a time lapse and just come along for it. So I have all the slugs out of the components now, and I've kind of separated them into the different sections. So we've got obviously the base onto here, we've got the lower mid, upper mid, then back up to starting to form the horn, and we have these bits here. And what you could do, or what I could do, is I could have etched each number on here for layering to make it a little bit easier, but it does take more time on the laser. So with that in mind, more time, more money, etc. So I didn't go for that, but it's pretty simple. It looks like there's a lot of plates here, and it will take a little bit of time to figure it out. But you can kind of build it up layer by layer. Each one either gradually gets bigger or gradually gets smaller in size. The horn gradually gets more bigger towards the top, and you can sort of know which ones are the taller ones with the holes in here. Didn't take long. I've done all the deburring on the outside, and I'm now ready to clamp this all together, and I'm going to be using these. Now, from doing this design now, looking at it and completing it, there is something I would have changed. The base plate on here, as mentioned earlier, is tapped. It's a tapping size for M12, and the idea was for me to use a countersink, put these all the way through to the top, like so, and then clamp these from the base plate. In reality, you could probably do this the opposite way, and it would probably give you a bit more of a working area. The reason why I didn't do this at the time was because I didn't want, if you'd hit around this area and you'd mar up the top of the, or the end I should say, of the thread. Would that have been an issue? I don't really think it would have been. Looking at it now, I'm not so sure. Depends on what you're doing, of course. But this is the way I've done it. It's only if I wanted to redo it, I'd get that plate cut and the bottom plate recut. But you know, this is Mark 1, so it can't be perfect every time. But you know, that is where we are. But I think having it this way, the more force that you're putting it on the top as more of a plus side, is you've got a higher clamping surface from here. So it's a clamping force of bringing it up and down at the same time. Whereas that, I feel you're relying on the threads to be pulled down. Horses for courses. Horses for courses. I did toy with the idea of putting in each corner a complete slit in the whole way down, and what that would allow you to do is, if you wanted to, you could tack all the other plates together, because reality is you're not really likely to change these lower plates. But you never know. For me, you know, I want this to be as easy as possible. You might not have a welder, you might not have the skills to weld this together, I don't know. But if you've got a countersink and an M12 tap, you know, it's probably a lot easier. Now, my next issue is that the largest countersink I've got is on a Morse taper 2 shank for my lathe, and my pillar drill, well, my working pillar drill hasn't got a shank that's going to be able for this to fit inside of it. So I'm going to take this to my mate's house, which has, and I'm going to countersink these. But you can get this size. I believe this is a dormer, and it is 32 millimeters by 90. So typically these are 45 each side, straight in the top there. So I'm going to get these done and return back to the workshop. So I will see you then. I just forgot. I have bought this high tensile all threaded bar. We call it threaded bar where I'm from. I cannot get hold of countersunk M12 at the length of 240 mil, and this is another thought I kind of had. If I used a longer coach length screw, and the bottom plate would be like, would look like this. So you could have this and use this as a spacer, which 12 mil would allow the clearance of a standard hex head bolt to go underneath here. And you would then align this up with these 4 corner holes and then screw down to whatever you're having, which allows this is effectively a spacer / washer to be able to fit these on. So I hope that makes sense. In my head, it certainly does. Okay, so we have our 4 studs here. I'm going to call them studs because that's what I think they are. And now what we need to do is on here is we are going to grind, prep and weld these together, and they are going to sit like that. So you do have to weld if you haven't got longer ones of these. But as I say, if I was doing the other design, then you could just use standard coach screws, a little bit of length, but it's Mark 1. It's an Anvil. Look at it. It'll be interesting how well it rings when it's all put together. So let's get these welded. We're going to do some prep. We'll just use an angle grinder with a flat disc on here, and then we're going to tap the bottom. Easy. Okay, so we have countersunk everything and got all the bolts in. They're a little bit tight, they need a bit of a love tap to get them all in. We countersunk everything so they fit really nice. Now what we need to do is take all of the other layers apart from the bottom one and then tap that for M12. Don't know why I'm using the world's smallest ratchet. And there we are. This is a completed anvil. Doesn't ring like the other anvil I own, which is this one. Doesn't help that stuff's on it. It bounces as well, you see. But even so, there's a hole line up. There's a pritchhole. There's the face. And there's the anchor.